Who's ready to get angry? Sometimes we got a good hair day, sometimes we have a bad hair day. This is a bad one. I woke up like an hour ago and I'm still kind of like trying to wake up. So like I had a cute bow on this straw. It broke off. Don't know how. I just picked up the straw and the bow was like gone. I was like, okay. I need to take a thumbnail before I start hooting and hollering and getting all riled up. Anyways, happy Bookmas, everyone. Merry Bookmas. Today I'm going to be talking about my least favorite books because I talked about my favorite books. It's time to talk about my least favorite ones. A lot of these I do not have. Like a lot of the books, I do not have them because obviously I didn't like them. There are some that I do have, but am I going to grab them? I don't know. I'll try. I shouldn't be so lazy. So, like I just said, it looks like I don't have pants. I swear to God I have shorts on. I'm not naked, I promise. I'm not gonna spoil anything, so don't worry, you're good. If I do have to spoil something, I will put like a warning, not a disclaimer, a warning. I don't even, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20. Wow, 20, wow. That's pretty good. And these are also in like no particular order. We all have books that we don't like. Reading is subjective. Everyone has their own opinions, so these are mine. All right, so this first one, I feel like a lot of people do like this book a lot. I read this book for a reading vlog, reading booktubers 5-star reads. So this book was The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery. This book was boring. I don't know, listen. Okay. Again, these are just my opinions. I feel like I have to tread very carefully on me talking about some of these books because some of these books you guys probably really like. But it's like, I literally was like, what is the point of me reading this right now? Because I am somebody that really likes to have a specific plot, okay? And this book, I thought there was a specific plot, but it ended up being just the story of A.J. Fickery's life. Obviously, that's like the title. A.J., he's a very grumpy book store owner. He's just lived most of his life alone, I guess, and then suddenly a little girl shows up at his doorstep. And I thought that's what the book was about. I thought it was like the mystery of figuring out who this girl is. No, not really. So, I don't know, I guess I just expected more from the story plot-wise. I don't know what rating I gave it. I'll put it up here. I want to say it was maybe a 2. A lot of these books that I'm talking about are like 2 to like low 3s. Okay, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Oh my gosh. This book I listened to on audio, okay? I could not. The amount of times it says I felt my nipples pinch, I was like, dude, their relationship in total was just purely sexual to me. And I did watch the movie, and the movie was fine, but the book, I was like, dude, how many times do we have to hear about her nipples? I just did not like that. I did not like that at all. Dating Game was about like this man and woman. I don't know their names. They work at this place and they're both trying to like get a promotion. They're in competition for this like promotion, and that's like it. That's like all the book is about. And they hate each other. They hate each other. You know how that goes, usually. This one may be a little controversial. I don't own it, but I used to. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know what it was about One True Loves. I just didn't like it. It took me forever to finish that book. I was like, damn girl, you just need to make a decision. I know that sounds awful, okay? The concept was there, because this book is about like this woman, like, happily married. Her husband apparently gets into like this plane crash and like dies, right? And then he ends up not being dead, and then he comes back. Before he comes back though, it had been like years later, and she gets engaged to someone else. So that's basically what this book is about. This is a book I feel like I could probably reread and have a different outlook on it, but I think when books take me so long to finish, it puts a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know, to me, it was just a little slow. But, I mean, I will say, I was impressed by the ending. I was impressed on how she ended it, so. I don't hate it. Probably definitely one of the books on this list that I think is, like, okay compared to the others, but I think about it, and I just remember it being so slow. One Day in December by Josie Silver. Listen, not gonna lie, Josie Silver is on this list twice. I just don't like her writing, I guess. One Day in December, that was a really popular Christmas book. This one is about this girl and this guy. They see each other at a bus stop. Someone's on the bus. I don't know. Someone's at the bus stop, someone's on the bus, and they're like looking at each other, and it's like love at first sight. She can't stop thinking about this guy, and she tells her friend about it, and she's like, man, I saw this guy at the bus, he was so cute. And a year goes by, time goes by, and she still kind of thinks about this guy because I guess he was so hot that like she was just like, I can't stop thinking about him. Listen, that's fine. That's fine. You know, there are a lot of books that are like that, and it's like love at first sight. That's okay. But then, you know, the best friend is like, I'm gonna have a party, and you should come and meet my new boyfriend. You know where that's going. The boyfriend is the guy that she saw at the bus stop and was like in love with. And then instead of like telling her best friend about it, which I guess, what would you do? She just is like, oh, I'm so happy for you. And that's not the part of the book I hate. You go on 10 years. 10 years of these two these two freaking characters yearning for each other while they're dating other people, while he's dating her best friend. There was just a lot of emotional cheating in my mind. So in my head, if I was the best friend and my boyfriend was constantly thinking about my best friend in like this romantic way, I would be so upset. Like, I would be so upset. And it's like, in the long run, you're just gonna hurt yourself more, okay? And these characters were in their mid-20s, okay? They were in their mid-20s, so they should know better, okay? Anyway. Oh my gosh. And the next book, I have this one. What? This book, I feel like had so much potential. This ending pissed me off. So this one is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. It's about like a nanny. This woman applies for this nannying job for whatever reason. She's never been a nanny before, but she applies for this specific job for a specific reason that I don't want to say because it's a spoiler. Kids are creepy. The house is creepy. The house is also like very high tech with cameras and stuff. The ending was just so unsatisfying that it pissed me off. This book is gonna go bye-bye because I don't like it. I'm not gonna keep books that I don't like because that's stupid. Why would I keep books that I don't like? The next one, The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. I'm obviously just not a Josie Silver fan. Okay. I read this book on my Kindle. Her husband passes away and she is very depressed. This book is very much about grief, and I didn't really know that going into it. I thought it was gonna be like a romance. Okay, basically she has like this medication and to help her sleep. Okay, so when she goes to sleep, she kind of lives another life with her dead husband, hence calling it The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. It was a lot of grief and I think self-growth because she did a lot of things for herself in this book. That's all fine and good, but that's just not what I thought it was gonna be. But the thing that threw me off about this book the most was the romance slipped in at the very end. It was random, it was unsatisfying, and it ended like that. You could literally be like, the last 5 pages of the book, here's some romance for you, and then it ends. And I was like, oh, and you know, it's funny because I just said that I don't want to own books that I don't like, but like, I'm not going to get rid of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I don't like The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Not because it's about snow, because a lot of people are like, I'm not going to read about snow, oh my gosh, but like, it's not because of snow. It's because this book just felt very different than the other ones. This is the 4th book. This is kind of the prequel. President Snow and Lucy Gray, and kind of telling their story or whatever. This book was told so much differently than the first 3 and the Sunrise on the Reaping. It's 3rd person, it's slow, it's long. The world building in this, I felt, just was very confusing because when they talked about, like, this isn't a spoiler, when they talked about Lucy being in like some kind of cage like before the games started, I was like, I couldn't visualize that in my head. It was really confusing. This pacing, it was so hard to get through. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm done. Another one, actually this book belongs to my sister. I need to give it back to her because I definitely don't want this on my shelves. Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller. This is a dark romance and it's a series. It's about Alina and Cal, and Cal is like this mafia guy, right? And he like works under her father, like Alina's father or something. She is getting into this forced marriage to like unite the mafias or something. Then something happens to the guy that she's supposed to marry, and then Cal steps in and he's like, I'll marry her. We lost the plot. First half of the book, I don't even know. I literally don't remember. I remember there was a plot twist like with like the mom or something, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But like other than that, what even was this? See, I can barely tell you what happened because what? A lot of people like this book, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I didn't like this one, obviously, that's why I'm talking about it in this video. I think the biggest reason why I did not like this book was because I wanted a more realistic ending. If you don't want to know anything about The House Across the Lake, maybe just skip a few seconds. This is a paranormal mystery. So with that being said, you can kind of see where I'm going with it, right? I wanted a more realistic ending, and having that sort of explanation, it kind of pissed me off because I went through this whole thing trying to like, I have all these theories on like who could have done this, blah, blah, and it ended up just being that. I think that would just put a really bad taste in my mouth. And that was my first Riley Sager book. So I think that's like the biggest reason why I feel that way about it. But there are 2 other books that I read by Riley Sager, The Only One Left and Final Girls, and I really like those. I guess he's just a hit or miss author for me. This next book I do have, but it's all the way up there. And you think I'm gonna grab that right now? No. Ruthless Vows. Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I love Divine Rivals, but Ruthless Vows was such a disappointment for me. But I feel like it's mostly because Ruthless Vows is very much more about like the war and the gods and things like that. And there are some things in this book that I did like. However, the majority of this book I did not like. I feel like this book should have just been one book. A lot of people read 700-page books, okay? You could have just mashed these together, made a big book, take out some of the fluff that was in the second book, and it would have been fine. It just felt like a very different, like, book from the first one. Like, because the first one was more about the romance, but then the second one, it just... There was some romance, but it was a lot about, like, the war and stuff. I feel like if you're somebody that enjoys, like, world building and, like, politics and, like, gods and goddesses and, like, that kind of stuff, I feel like you probably really loved Ruthless Vows. But, like, for me, I just wanted, I don't know, I wanted that same feeling I got in Divine Rivals, and I didn't get it, so. This one was very much a shock. The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. When I read this in a reading vlog, here's the thing. I tend to give books higher ratings than they, like, probably should get, like, because I don't take my time to really think about books. I'm trying to do that now. Think about the books and like the ratings and like what I actually felt, and trying not to base my ratings off of other people, because sometimes I feel like with a popular author I need to like say, oh, this book was good, but that's not true. All authors are allowed to have some flops, okay? And reading also is subjective, okay? And I feel like Lynn Painter's forte is YA romance. I love The Do-Over and I love Better Than the Movies, but I did not like The Love Wager. The Love Wager was just about like these two people. They make a wager on who can find love first, and it's pretty obvious from the beginning that they are very much into each other. They're both just being so immature about it, and these are adults, okay? And after every failed date goes wrong, they go and like get tacos together, and it's like, guys, I don't know about you, but you're on a date. And I know guys and girls can hang out and get tacos together, and it can be very like friendly, right? But like they were very much into each other. It didn't feel as good as just a cutesy YA Lynn Painter book. I just remember being annoyed the whole time, being like, okay guys, figure it out. Oh my gosh, they had sex in the beginning of the book too. Like they literally, didn't they have a one-night stand or something at like a wedding? They obviously were very attracted to each other. I don't know. Okay, the next book, sorry to sound so stereotypical. Mile High. Listen, we all say it. We all don't like Mile High, but the rest of the series is so good. I'm like giving the next 2 5 stars. Mile High, I just didn't like. It took me forever to get through this book. A lot of people say that the first half was really bad and the second half was really good, and I have to agree. The first half was just so annoying. It's not even like really Xander's that pissed me off. A lot of people will say, oh, Xander's is so mean, but I feel like that was part of his character to be mean. But I don't know, the beginning of the book, it just didn't really like grasp me as hard. Like I wasn't as like into it as I was with the next 2 books or whatever. Yeah, Mile High just wasn't my favorite, but I feel like you could just skip Mile High and read the next 2 because literally in the beginning of The Right Move, Mile High is summed up in a paragraph, okay? So it's like, do you want to read a 400+ page book that you might not even like to get to the good ones, or do you want to just read like a paragraph, like a summary? I wouldn't want the first book to turn you off from the Windy City series because the Windy City series is so good, other than the first one. I feel like this doesn't come as a shock because I feel like I've talked about how much I don't like this book. Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This book was so cringy. They are 28 years old. I'm 28. I'm pretty cringy too, but this dialogue in here, it was so cringy. And I feel like the writing was very, how do I say this in like the nicest way? If you don't read a lot, or if you started reading books, I feel like the people that, ooh, this is a take for me to say. This is crazy for me to say. If you're somebody that doesn't read, or if people on TikTok, they see this book and they don't read, but they're like, oh, the cover's so cute, and I love pumpkin spice coffees, they're gonna read this book and think it's good, okay? The writing is very like surface level. I feel like there wasn't really a lot of depth in the characters. If you love the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sure that maybe the other ones are good. I obviously am reading Christmas books and I have the Christmas Tree Farm, so maybe that one will be good. This next one I also own, Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I think when I first read this, I was like, yeah, it's not bad, and then I go on and think about it and I'm just like, this is just not for me. I'm all about reading about some vampires, sure, werewolves, sure, bat boys, yes, but this, I think I will read Mate, which is the next one to this. I don't want to read about a dog penis, okay, because that's what was happening, and I just can't get that piece of dialogue out of my head. He's like, say it, and then she's like, you're not. But I understand why people do like it, because you know, you've got the werewolf and the vampire, but this is just not for me, okay? This is about like an arranged marriage between like a vampire and a werewolf, and they have to like marry for some reason. I don't remember. This author, I've heard, she's controversial. She's actually controversial. So the fact that I don't like her book is valid. 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I read this like last year for like a video where I was reading sad books. If you want to know nothing about this book, you can skip ahead, but I do want to give something away. This book was literally just us reading about the girl's eventual death, like she was gonna die. The guy hasn't seen her in like 2 years because he moved away for like 2 years and she stopped contacting him. And he's like, why'd you stop contacting me? I'm in love with you, blah, blah. And she's like, because I'm dying. Of course you're dying. Of course. Like, it was just kind of like, okay. But then we learned that she was dying, like, barely halfway through the book. And so, basically, the rest of the book, we're just waiting for her to die. So, it was just really boring. I was kind of just like, okay, can you die already? So, but yeah, this book was basically just about, like, this couple, and they're, like, in love, and then they're, like, teenagers, and then the guy moves away, like, out of the country for, like, 2 years or something. They're, like, doing the long distance thing, and suddenly she stops contacting him for whatever reason. It's dramatic, and then he comes back and sees her, and he's like, why'd you stop contacting me? And then she tells him the reason, and of course it's something very dramatic, but, like, we're just eventually waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting for something to happen. But I will say, the epilogue was really good. I really liked the epilogue. The epilogue really was honestly like the best part of the book because I don't know, it just shocked me. But other than that, I did not like this book. Okay, A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This book was also boring. We had an unreliable narrator in the beginning, and she's popping a lot of pills, right? So it's like, okay, so she could be doing something kind of weird, right? She could be the culprit. For a mystery thriller book to be this slow, I was so unimpressed. But the ending was really good. I think this book had a lot of potential to be a very good mystery thriller book. The culprit reveal, I thought that was really cool. But other than that, the beginning, the first half of the book was so slow. I don't really remember, but I don't think I liked the way it was written, because I think we were in the character's head a lot. And there just wasn't a lot of dialogue pushing the story forward. It was mostly us just being in her head. And that's all fine and good, but it was just slow. Twisted Love. So like I said, some of these books are like a low 3-star. This is one of them, Twisted Love. I think Twisted Love for me was it was too much. And I think I went into it thinking it was like just a regular romance book. These are dark romances. They're kind of the introduction into mafia romances, which I didn't know, but now it makes sense. I just didn't like the main guy character. His attraction to her felt really random. Basically what this story is about, okay, it's the first book in the Twisted series, and the girl's name is Ava, but I forget the guy's name. Ava's brother is like, hey, I want you, random guy that I can't remember the name of, I want you to watch over my little sister while I go out of the country or something. And he's like, I'm asking you because I know you won't sleep with her. And he's like, okay. And then he ends up sleeping with her, of course. Right when Ava's brother leaves, the guy's like, oh, she's hot. You know, that felt kind of random. I'm gonna finish the series eventually. I need to read the last 2 and then I can move on to the Kings of Sin series, but like, that one was just wild. Okay, this one is another Christmas book. This one was called Along Came Holly by Cody Hall. I hate how sometimes the covers are so deceiving. From how spicy a book is, it really throws me for a loop. But these characters were so immature. The story was so spicy. I just didn't like it, and I feel like that's all I needed to say about it. And the writing, I don't know, the characters felt very cringy. It's like they're also 28 years old. Like I said, I'm 28 years old. I'm cringy, okay? But like these characters, it was nuts. I was just so tired of reading it because of how spicy it was. It was just way too much. And it's like, why can't I just get a feel-good holiday read without them banging front, left, right, and center? Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I did like this one more than The House Across the Lake, but this one, I feel like I just had a lot higher hopes for. This one was about like 2 boys, they're camping in a tent, and one of the boys goes missing, and then you like go to like, what, 10 years later, the guy comes back, and then he feels like he's seeing his friend again. But the thing I did like about this book though is that you didn't really know if it was like going to be a paranormal explanation or regular mystery thriller explanation for like the culprit or whatever, and that I didn't mind. I felt like that was a lot of people's issue with it, is that it kind of was like, is it paranormal or is it a real person? That didn't really bother me. What bothered me about it was execution didn't feel like it was there. It almost felt like a rush story, but also there were parts of it that were slow. But also we're given like this, I think it was an insane asylum. We're given this insane asylum plot that was kind of talked about, but like it ended up not really, that part ended up not really meaning anything, I guess. And the last one, Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I just read this. I don't even want to talk about it. So this one, I feel like if I continue the series, maybe it would get better, but I'm just not gonna because I just didn't like the first one. So this book was like about this girl that is like kind of obsessed with like this Ellingham murder case. There are these murders that occurred at like Ellingham Academy, and this girl is like obsessed with the murders that happened because the school is like famous for it. It's like this cold case, right? So she goes there and she's like, I'm gonna solve a mystery. She barely does anything with it. It's like she's like going to do this thing and then she just gets distracted along the way, and you know that makes sense and like it's fine because she's in school or whatever. But I was like, so what are you doing? And there was a romance thrown in there that I didn't really get. There's this whole mystery with a student dying that had nothing to do with the murders back in the day. Felt like it had to like tie in together somehow, like the murders, but it didn't. The romance thrown in there was weird. I was like, why are they randomly making out and rolling on the floor? I just didn't really get it. Sorry I had to be like very vague. Some people probably still want to read these books. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Happy Bookmas. Just remember that reading is very subjective and we all have different opinions on books, and don't get mad if people don't like the books that you like. Anyway, that's the end of today's video. I hope you guys liked it. Sorry it was a little boring, but I hope you found enjoyment out of it anyway. And let me know if any of the books that I talked about not liking, if you like them. I'm very curious. And is there any books on my list that you also don't like? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!